Hello and welcome, my dear friends. Today we are going to talk about hobby. This is one of the important aspects of your interview. Your interview normally starts with hobby. The reason is that they know very well that the candidates will have some tensions, they'll have some hesitations. You have to remember, whenever you go for any interview, whether it is UPSC or BPSC, the panelists are there to select you. They are not there to reject you or eliminate you. Interview is not a process for elimination, it's a process for selection. So that means they will always have a positive mindset while taking your interview. Now, most importantly, it is not actually an interview, it is a personality test. So your personality reflects to a great deal by the kind of hobby you nurture, because rest of the things that you have, even your name, that is also not yours, somebody else has given you. Whatever qualification you have acquired, that also to a great extent influenced by your parents' decision, the decisions of the relatives, and sometimes the society forces you to do the things that you normally do. What I mean here, that everywhere in your life you are not at your own. You are actually leading a life of somebody else's dreams or wants. Only in case of hobby, normally it is your choice. Nobody forces you to do that, nobody asks you to do that. Your likings and dislikings will decide what kind of hobby you nurture. And therefore, when you enter the room for your interview, they will love to ask you questions from your hobby first. The basic reason is that they will make you at ease. They will try to put you at ease. They want to extract the best out of you, and that is why they give you some time to relax. They give you some time so that you settle down, your nerves get settled down, and thereafter you'll be able to come out the best. So the question is, what kind of hobby you should write over there in your DEF? Should you write the actual hobby, or you write something else? Here you have to understand that there's a difference between answer and reply. Every question does not have a corresponding answer. Answer means if somebody asks you a question, whatever you should say or you will say, that is known to that person who has asked you the question. That is your answer. But in case of reply, you have got some liberty. Means a question has been asked and you have got the liberty to say whatever you want, provided there are some do's and don'ts that you have to follow. But in case of reply, you have got some liberty, you have got some choice, some freedom is there. But in case of answer, you don't have that freedom. And therefore, whenever a question comes from your hobby, you are going to give them a reply, not an answer. And that is the reason why you can write a hobby which is actually not your hobby. I hope you are being able to understand this point. You can write your actual hobby, provided you will be comfortably handling the questions if they ask. If you have got that kind of a knowledge, if you have collected knowledge, if you have got the confidence that I can handle the questions, any questions that comes from your hobby sections, then you are allowed to, I think you can write your actual hobby over there. Otherwise, if you are not very comfortable in answering the questions, I mean to say that if you are not comfortable in handling the questions, because at times it happens that whatever is your hobby, you may not have sufficient knowledge regarding the hobby that you nurture. For example, my hobby is painting. It does not necessarily mean that I should be knowing the difference between Mughal painting and Rajasthani painting. There are so many branches of painting, and it is not necessary that I should be knowing, or I would be knowing everything that they will ask. Now, choice is yours. If you have got knowledge, if you have collected knowledge, if you are comfortable in handling questions, go ahead, write your actual hobby. Otherwise, my suggestion would be first sit down and think that what should you write over there. And if you can write something which may not be your actual hobby, but you can write it and you can handle the questions, then there is no harm in writing that particular hobby. Let me tell you my own experience. When I was preparing for a civil service interview, my actual hobby is painting, my actual hobby is playing guitar. but I did not mention all these things. I also did not mention my one of the hobbies like reading books. I did not mention any of these hobbies in my biodata. What did I do? I wrote a hobby which was quite unusual, and I knew that the questions would come. What I wrote over there is that my hobby is playing Ludo with my mother. That was the hobby that I mentioned in that civil service examination biodata. The reason is that I knew that they'll definitely ask questions quite unusual, and there is hardly any question against which I have to give them answer. As I told you, answer means question, and the answer means I know what you are supposed to say, what you should say. For example, if I ask you who is the Prime Minister of India, then of course I know the answer. You have to say exactly the name of the person who is the Prime Minister of India. You don't have any liberty to say something else. But if I ask you what is your hobby, maybe your hobby is painting, actually you're painting, but you may not express that. You may say something else, and that is why I wrote my hobby is playing Ludo with my mother. So I was expecting questions from there, quite unusual, and they started asking me questions from that segments, like why you play Ludo with your mother, and what purpose does it serve. All kinds of questions they asked, right? And you were comfortable also in answering, in replying those questions. So that point you have to keep in mind, that hobby is very important. You have to write something over there, and that should be your take. If you can write your actual hobby, provided you have got the knowledge, you are comfortable in handling the questions. Otherwise, my suggestion would be that write that hobby in particular, where you have got the knowledge, or you can collect knowledge, or questions are more or less restricted, so that you can comfortably answer those questions. Another aspect is that whenever they ask you a question, say for example, introduce yourself, you end the introduction by saying your hobby or interest. By doing that, what will you do? You will actually lead the interview towards your strength. For example, you have mentioned your the college education or school education, and everything you have mentioned, whatever you are supposed to mention over there, and then at the end you say that this is my hobby. Because as I have said, by mentioning your hobby, you make yourself separated from others. In rest of these things, maybe the other people will also have the same, your education, your college, and your experience, job experience. Other people may have the same kind of biodata. Only in case of hobby, you will be separating yourself from others. And when you mention the hobby over there, at that time you will be able to give them a clue, because the next question would be from your hobby. By doing that, you will be spending quite a amount of time in dealing with the questions of your strength areas, hobby and related to hobby. And by the time they'll finish asking questions from hobby, your nerves will be settled down, you will be very much comfortable, and you'll be ready for challenging questions. Because in interview it grows, it starts with the infancy level, and gradually it matures, and then it goes to the highest level. And at the highest level of your interview, there will be a stress management. So initially there won't be any stress. They know that you are already under stress, and therefore initially they'll try to make you comfortable by asking questions from your strength areas. Because as I said, when they ask a question from your hobby, they are expecting a reply from you, not an answer. And in reply, there is no question of right and wrong. You are always right in reply. So that is the purpose of asking questions from hobby at the very starting level of your interview. And gradually, slowly, they will take the interview forward to the matured stage, and there will be a point where they will be asking you a question by which they will try to put you under stress. That is stress management. So if you are not comfortable in answering your questions from your hobby sections, then you will always be under stress. By the time you reach that stressful area, or the questions which are basically meant for stress management, you will be already getting crumbled or cracked up. And that is why my suggestion is that choose a hobby in which you are comfortable, where you are very, very comfortable in answering or replying the questions. That's all for today. Tomorrow we'll meet again with the another section, that is job. Thank you.